Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tim Richards, Technical Services Manager of the Managing General Agents Association, and on behalf of the MGAA, I'd like to welcome you to our briefing this afternoon. This is being delivered by e2e Total Loss Vehicle Management on the subject of Motor MGAs Boost Your Claims Proposition with Reclaimed Parts. Before I introduce our presenters, I'd just like to run through a few housekeeping points. Please ensure your microphone and camera are turned off. If you'd like to ask a question, feel free to use the chat button at the bottom of your screen. Time allowing, these will be asked and answered at the end of the event. If we run out of time, questions will be answered post-event. This presentation is accredited for CPD hours if relevant to your ongoing professional development programme. The briefing is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be issued post-event, together with the slides and our feedback survey. Please take the time to complete our survey, which will take no longer than 2 minutes. This allows us to deliver the best possible future events to our members. So as a recap, today's briefing is on the subject of Motor MGAs Boost Your Claims Proposition with Reclaimed Parts from e2e Total Loss Vehicle Management. So let me introduce you to our presenters, Mia Constable and Chris Hulls. Mia joined e2e in 2018, bringing with her over 15 years experience in the insurance industry. Her knowledge base encompasses the broker community, insurers, MGAs and claims management companies. Mia fully understands the insurance journey, including product proposition, customer acquisition, customer service and retention, claims operations and total loss considerations, all underpinned by the latest regulatory compliance requirements. Mia joined e2e having identified the market opportunity represented by reclaimed parts and has been working with clients to help promote and adopt their use to reduce motor claims costs, shorten life cycle, improve customer experience and boost sustainability. Chris brings extensive parts and repair knowledge coupled with operational and systems experience, having spent over 20 years in the automotive aftermarket, supporting work providers and their associated repair networks. Chris has been a leading voice in the promotion and adoption of reclaimed parts to the insurer repair markets and continues to promote the benefits of a circular model when a client aligns their salvage vehicles and repair network to both face into the same supplier. Chris's experience and insight have been pivotal in the creation, integration and implementation of online automated reclaimed parts procurement platforms. So without further ado, enjoy the briefing, everyone. And Mia, over to you.
Thank you. Chris, I'd like to lead on the slides. That's great. So just to recap on your learning objectives. So explain what classifies as a safety-related part and what is unsuitable to use as a reclaimed part. Describe the VRA certification to the UK standard for reclaimed parts and why it's important. Outline the carbon emission benefits from reclaimed parts and summarise the benefits of including reclaimed parts into policy wording. So Chris, over to you. And you're on mute.
Thank you, Mia. Hi everybody, thanks for joining the call today. Hopefully we're going to give you some insight into the learning objectives that Mia's just outlined. So the first question that we've put here is what is a reclaimed part? And I think to answer this question, we first need to define vehicle salvage, of which there are two main subcategories, effectively repairable and non-repairable. These subcategories are predominantly made up of category S, N, B, and A. Category S is a structurally compromised vehicle that has been deemed a total loss. Category N is a non-structural total loss vehicle. Category B is a total loss vehicle where the appropriately qualified person has decided the vehicle is not suitable to go back on the road, but can have parts harvested from that vehicle. A category A is what's fondly known of in the industry as a pancake, and no parts can be used from that vehicle. As I say, it needs an AQP qualified engineer to inspect and apply the category to each of those salvage codes. e2e and its network of members dismantles all Category B vehicles. No Category B vehicles leave our gates. Everything is dismantled in-house. A reclaimed part, or a green part, as is also a commonly used term in the industry, is a part that's been sourced from, as I said, a Cat B vehicle, where an individual item has been deemed appropriate for reuse. Any part or parts that are considered to have residual value and are in a good enough resaleable condition can be classified as a reclaimed part. Some of the more popular and in-demand product groups are as follows: engines and gearboxes and other large mechanical items. Sometimes we talk of drive shafts and some of the larger components that are of a mechanical nature. Electrical items, starter motors, alternators, fuel injectors, perhaps radiator cooling fans. In the collision repair industry, external body panels, so hinged panels like doors, tailgates, grills, bumpers. Also, light units represent a really strong opportunity for us as vehicle dismantlers at the moment. Seats, interior trims, and also radiators and air conditioning condensers and compressors. Industry knowledge and more recently repair statistics and data help us as an industry identify fast-moving items that are in demand. Collision parts are added to inventory and graded based on visual and physical inspection. SMR, or mechanical parts, are graded and added to inventory on visual inspection, whilst also paying close attention to donor vehicle mileage and condition. Based on industry statistics, we know that less than 5% of parts made available by vehicle dismantlers from Category B salvage vehicles, of that 5%, less than 3% are used in repair. Granted, there are less parts available from a vehicle that has been involved in a collision and has subsequently been deemed a total loss, but when you consider that modern vehicles can have anywhere between 15 and 30,000 individual component parts, I think you'll agree it represents a huge opportunity that is largely still untapped. Okay, Tim, we have a polling question.
So hopefully you can see that on your screens now. I can see people are starting to answer that. Do you encourage the use of reclaimed or green parts? So simple yes or no. We'll leave the poll going for around about a minute or so, or until when most people have answered. I can see at the moment, Chris, we have 40% saying yes and 60% saying no. And I think that seems to be with everyone who's going to taking part. So yeah, back to you.
Great, thank you very much. And I think that's probably a common statistic. I think in general, green parts, reclaimed parts, and the initiatives around them by insurers and other work providers are still in their infancy. There's still more engagement required. I think the benefits are pretty clear, and you know, sessions like today give us an opportunity as an industry to present those opportunities, but I think we understand that we've got a way to go yet, but it's pleasing to see the result of the poll. Okay, safety related parts, or component exclusions as we call them. Some items will always be excluded from our product offering, although certain items and ranges can be specifically omitted by a work provider, i.e. an insurer or fleet operator, but only when this is in a B2B environment. Retail sales of reclaimed parts are approached somewhat differently, and some items are that are not available in the B2B arena can be found within a B2B marketplace. In terms of what is always excluded from our product offering within the B2B sector, you'll see from the images on the screen that these are some of the subgroups of those parts. So we've got SRS, airbags and seatbelt equipment. These items are disposed of internally, with any perishable items being disposed of and recyclable material identified and treated appropriately. Braking components, including friction, hydraulic and electronic. Some braking components do have residual value and demand within the remanufacturing supply chain. Typically, these would be something like brake calipers. Steering and suspension items, steering racks, gears, coil springs, wishbones, and suspension struts. Some of these parts attract interest in the retail domain, but are strictly prohibited from within the Sura and fleet-funded repair markets. Also structural components, such as chassis parts, legs, subframes, and bumper reinforcements. Although some of these parts do have demand, all are strictly omitted from our automated parts feed, and as such are not offered for insurer and fleet-funded repairs. Sourcing with certainty. So this touches on the VRA certification that all the e2e network members hold: quality, warranty, and provenance. As the UK vehicle recycling sector has grown substantially in recent times, the increasing complexity of motor vehicles and their parts places specific challenges on vehicle recyclers. To ensure that all available parts are appropriately identified, tested, removed, and documented. The purpose of the certification scheme is to provide end users of reclaimed parts with confidence that the part has been accurately identified, recorded, tested, removed, and sold by a vehicle recycler that operates a robust quality management system, and that the part has been marketed and sold by a vehicle recycler that has and abides by the appropriate environmental authorizations. Certification involves an annual audit and review of the vehicle recycler's policies and procedures to ensure they meet the UK standard for reclaimed parts. The standard was developed in-house by the industry and is owned by the VRA. The standard applies to UK-based retail recyclers operating an end-of-life authorised treatment facility and includes requirements for a quality management system, end-of-life vehicle acquisition and identification, parts grading, testing, recording, and storage. This means every certified vehicle recycler that operates a yard is authorised by the environmental regulator, and they are also a registered scrap metal dealer by their relevant local authority. Many parts are applicated using age appropriation, and in some cases, customers have received newer items than the original ones that are being replaced. Simply put, we try and provide our customers with parts from newer vehicles than the one that are being repaired. Above all, the VRA certification for reclaimed parts aims to achieve a level of certainty, transparency, and service in line with our aftermarket and OEM colleagues that is also FCA compliant. Only by adhering and being compliant with this standard will the vehicle recycling industry gain a larger foothold in the UK parts market and keep pace with the levels of ambition that have been set. I think we've got another polling question, Tim.
Okay, let me just launch that now. So you should see that on your screen now. So poll question 2 is, did you know about the VRA UK standard for reclaimed parts? Again, it's a single choice, just yes or no. And I'll leave that for about 30 seconds, so probably about another 15 seconds. So far, 6 out of 6, so everybody is saying no so far of those that have already answered, and not a single answer saying yes, so 0% for yes, and have no other answers coming in. So I'll end the poll there, Chris. So everybody says no.
Okay, well, I think that's good in one respect, that it gives me an opportunity to talk further about that if you want me to. My details will obviously be circulated after the event today, but I think ultimately the VRA has brought a standard to our industry which was required for us to engage more insurance companies and fleet operators and lease operators as well. You know, as I mentioned in the wording before, you know, it's there to give certainty, to give confidence, to give provenance, to give transparency. We have a huge amount of interest in what we're doing in the reclaimed parts arena at the moment. A lot of that interest does come from insurers. In my opinion, by their very nature, insurers are risk averse, and I think, you know, standards like the VRA certification can only help to kind of bolster what we're trying to achieve in terms of certainty and service. Mia, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So the next slide is talking about the FCA and how do reclaimed parts support the FCA consumer duty. So motor claims have lots of moving parts, resulting in the claim taking longer than we would like it to. The FCA requires companies to take full responsibility for every step in the claims process. That includes the outsourcing to third-party suppliers, of which e2e is one of. Our data shows evidence that use of reclaimed parts is not only resulting in the reduction of total loss, but from the consumer point of view, they have the option, or they have choices. So those choices around repair your vehicle with reclaimed parts, which will ultimately speed up the repair and return the vehicle back to the policyholder. The customer's total loss experience can be extremely stressful, as we know. So ensuring that the policyholder has a good experience is likely to result in customer retention, and that's what you'd hope for. Policyholders, as we know, can also be very attached to their cars, so reducing the time spent in credit hire, that will also ultimately reduce your indemnity spend. Customers are very much more aware of the environment, as we know from just our shopping experiences and, you know, use of bags. So the customers are so much more aware of this these days. So we're working together with customers to show that protection towards the environment. So use of parts is a much better option rather than a landfill of a vehicle. So making sure you understand the customer needs, provide them with all of the options available. Ensure your staff are fully understanding of what they're offering, can explain the steps in using reclaimed parts, and that also extends out to your suppliers. And just don't forget to mention parts when it comes from a car, that the parts come from a car the same age or newer and are from the original vehicle manufacturer. So they're the key takeaways from this slide. On to the next slide. So how do reclaimed parts support your claims process? So we've pulled out three key areas. As you know, there's lots of touch points within a claims process, but the three key areas we're focusing on, starting with the claims management partner. So you may decide to outsource your claims management process, and by doing this, you need to discuss and agree your requirements around the use of reclaimed parts. They may already be aware of this and using reclaimed parts, and you know, they should be able to, if they are, they'll be able to explain how this will help shorten the claims life cycle, and also finding out how do they manage those conversations with the policyholder, just to help that reduce the friction around those conversations. And then moving on to the body shop repairer, I think we're all aware of the frustrations that body shop repairers are going through at the moment. They do have lots of cars stored up for long periods of time whilst they're waiting for parts to come through. This does create a logjam. They end up with lack of space, and by offering the parts, it will drive the repairer efficiencies in fixing those vehicles and avoiding any further delays. And then from a policyholder perspective, at the time that the vehicle is in waiting for repair, they're currently without their car. So the likelihood is they are in credit hire. That increases costs for the insurers, and the policyholders just have no idea what timescale they're working to and when they're going to get their car back. It also results in continuous calls and emails, whether that's calls coming in or calls having to go out. It's just additional workload that is added into the equation, and ultimately it leaves the car unnecessarily sitting around waiting to be fixed. So either way, managing a total loss has friction in every area, and the use of reclaimed parts can only help reduce this. Thanks, Chris. Now you're on mute.
Thanks, Mia. Sorry, just to add to a point around the policyholder section of what you were just talking about. Having worked with a number of different insurers over the years in this kind of arena, most approach it in different ways. And I think initially when green parts, reclaimed parts became a bit of a buzzword, insurers were very resistant to allow repairers or allow them the autonomy to make the decision themselves around should they or shouldn't they fit a reclaimed part. So what that resulted in was, repairers having to get policyholder approval for the fitment of green parts. So it wasn't an issue at all. We would provide a quotation to the relevant repairer, and if the policyholder was agreeable with progressing the claim in that regard, we get the order, which was great. It's not really something that we see now. So as I say, I work with quite a few which were doing it. All of those now have removed that kind of clause within their claims process. So for me, it's a real pleasing issue that we've seen that's come as a result of more repair engagement and policyholder engagement as well. Okay, this is me. So how easy are reclaimed parts to source? So the e2e network of independent salvage and automotive recyclers provides its clients with a market-leading sustainable nationwide solution for reclaimed parts, with access to over 500,000 quality-graded, warranty-assured, dismantled items. We also commit to a 48-hour delivery SLA. That's across the UK. Integration and interrogation of repair estimatics technology has allowed us to gain greater insight into more educated inventory solutions to fit our clients' requirements and drive efficiency in supply. This means that more of the parts that are available are supplied off the shelf rather than having to go through the time-consuming process of dismantling. So what we know is that body shops and insurers, by their very nature, are interested in claims time. Historically, I think as an industry, this is an area where we perhaps were not performing as well as we needed to. But the integration of technology has allowed us to pick the baton up, so to speak. This also supports smarter decisions being taken around dismantling and disposal, coupled with increased efficiency when trying to maximize the opportunity of every single vehicle that comes through our doors. We can then also tailor bespoke solutions for our clients in different industry sectors, whether it be fleet or insurance. With the addition of estimatics platforms like Audatex and automated solutions when repairers create repair estimates, within 30 seconds we see visibility of the parts that are required for any specific vehicle when the repairer allows us access. From that point, we set an SLA with our clients of 1 hour to have a quotation with them. And from that point onwards, as I say, if the part is ordered, we commit to a turnaround of 48 hours on delivery. Okay, over to you, Mia.
Yep. So how do reclaimed parts reduce carbon emissions? So given that the results from that last polling question, I'm not sure how familiar the audience will be with some of these names on this screen. But e2e have come together as part of a cross-industry working party, and these are some of the companies that are involved with this. The objective of this working party is to establish the carbon emission savings that can be achieved for the use of reclaimed parts, and how to determine an appropriate measurement for reporting. So collectively, all parties want the industry to have a better understanding of their carbon footprints, which may help when making the decisions. And this will also enable the VRA to inform and support their works in influencing corporate and public sector policymakers. So currently we see various forms of carbon saving reports being shared across the industry, and what we have, or the research that's been completed, has reviewed previous studies which have been across the globe, with the particular focus on the weights of parts. Currently, it's very limited parts level assessments being published and no single centralised database. So there is more work to be done, and what this highlights is one standard is required to ensure consistency, that everybody is reporting carbon emission savings the same way. So this group that has been formed is currently researching and pulling through the data that's out in the market and looking at this to form or to understand how decisions are being made. But what we've concluded is there is a lot more work that needs to be done in order for everybody to ensure that they're working to the same standard. Currently, we're not there yet. Okay. So what does this mean for existing capacity provider relationships and prospecting for new capacity? So the 4 points that we've listed on this screen, ultimately, all of the 4 points are key to driving successful business forward. And from the framework that you put together, and that's whether you're seeking capacity or looking for underwrite, or you're underwriting for the capacity, all 4 points are relevant in making sure that this happens. Okay. So Tim, we've now got a polling question.
Okay, so let me launch the poll. So that's on the screen now. So the third and final poll. So now is the opportunity to vote if you haven't before. Do you feel reclaimed or green parts could boost your proposition? So it's just simply yes, no, or not sure. Got 2 in so far, so you can keep them coming in. That'd be great. I'll just leave about 30 seconds or so. So far, yes is in the lead. Do keep voting. Yes and not sure is now tied. So let's see if we can have a deciding vote. That would be awesome. Any more votes? So we've had one more. Just leave it a few more seconds and then we'll close the poll. Okay, so we have yes is the winning vote. So I'll pass that back to you and I'll just share the results on the screen.
Brilliant. Okay. It's interesting to see how the results do present themselves. you know, so, and it's as we suspected through the conversations that we've been having with the insurers. And I think ultimately some see it as a big benefit because they're looking at their claims and how it can work for them, and some have decided that they'll just won't entertain it at this stage, and they're not in the right position yet. So yeah, it's not unusual for us to see results like this, and as Chris alluded to earlier, that we are available to be able to, you know, have conversations with those who are still not sure, and we can share some more information around how we've done this for others that we work with. Okay, so just to recap on the learning objectives, so explain what classifies as a safety related part and what is unsuitable to use as a reclaimed part. Describe the VRA certification to the UK standard for reclaimed parts and why it's important. Outline the carbon emission benefits from reclaimed parts, and summarise the benefits of including reclaimed parts into policy wording. And thank you from myself and Chris. And if there's any questions.
Thanks both, and I'm pleased to say there are some questions already. So just say to anyone else on the call as well, do feel free to use this opportunity to use the chat button at the bottom of your screen. Just type a question in there, and we'll make sure that's put to Mia and Chris. But in the meantime, I have some questions here. So first one to both of you is, what is the easiest way to introduce reclaimed or green parts to my claims process?
Okay, so I'll come at it from the perspective of my background of working so closely with the insurance companies and the policy sales. So introduction of reclaimed parts. Firstly, we've got the policy wording. So you need to be or need to ensure that your terms and conditions for your motor policy enables and allows you to offer reclaimed parts as part of the repair of the vehicle. The other consideration is obviously having that conversation with the policyholder, making sure that they fully understand, or giving them the choice is very important. But it also sits with the body shop repairer as well. So you need to make sure that whether you're going direct to a body shop or to enable a body shop repairer to have that conversation with the policyholder, or whether it's through the claims management company, if you opt to go through that direction, you need to ensure that it's completely clear that a reclaimed part is an option to be considered for the policyholder when repairing the vehicle.
I would just going to say, I might just, if I may add a couple of points to that. I would say there's been, to my knowledge, there's nobody actually doing this yet, but there's been noise for some time around insurers reducing excesses or even claims costs when policyholders, you know, approve the use of green parts if their vehicle is unfortunately involved in an accident. So I think I know that happens with aftermarket parts with some insurers, and they're given that choice. I'm not aware, as we're speaking now, whether although it has been muted over the years to have the same for green, I'm not sure that it's been applied by anyone yet. But I think it's certainly a way that you could buy more engagement with your policyholder if there's some bells and whistles at the end of the journey for them.
Yeah.
Thanks both. I have another question for you both as well here, which is, how can I find out if my supply chains is already using reclaimed or green parts?
Chris, you're much closer to this.
Okay, so it would probably be worthwhile you having a discussion with them around who provides their salvage services. Okay, so with the adoption of estimatics platforms and body shop management platforms into our industry, it gives us much greater visibility of who is doing it and who's not doing it. When we first started going down this road with Outertex, we went out on the with our insurer partners and engaged repairers at the same time as them. But then increasingly we found out that, you know, repairers were doing work for lots of different insurers. So we opened up the parts feed across all of their work providers, and then that gave us visibility of all the different work they were doing. So I guess to answer your question, if it's coming through a green parts provider who has Outertex integration, and they can collate that MI and present it, then you would know. Okay, or you could find out, you could ask some probing questions in that regard. If it was going through another system, a B2C system, then I don't know how, other than an informal conversation with a repairer, I don't know how you'd find that out.
Thanks both. I'm going to ask a question which was typed in but disappeared, but I thought I presumably must have been deleted, but I think it was a really good question, so I'm going to ask it anyway, if I may. Which is, do you see parts used on third-party claims, and are these treated any differently?
They have. So what I used to see historically, I don't see so much now, but was where we had clients providing us with vehicle salvage, they wanted to keep the any parts that were harvested from their own vehicles for their repairs over and above other people's repairs. But I'm not, due to the volume of work that we see now, and unfortunately, unless we get a flag or a notification from a work provider that it is a third-party claim, if we don't know, we can't apply that rule set. And I think with the adoption of green parts, reclaimed parts, sorry, in the industry now, and so many jobs being ingested by us and others, to my knowledge, there's not a mechanism, an automated mechanism that would present to us across the industry when it was a third-party claim versus when it wasn't. Sorry, I've answered that in a kind of roundabout sort of way, but yes, there used to be, but I don't think there is a method to achieve that anymore.
I'm going to step in as well and just interject into the answer here, because ultimately, whoever owns that vehicle, whoever the policyholder is, whoever's agreeing to that vehicle repair, should be told what's being put into their vehicle if it's a reclaimed part, to be given the choice of repair.
Right.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect, thanks very much. And just going to ask the last question that I have at the moment. So if anyone does have any other questions, do type them in now, and we'll make sure they're asked to Mia and Chris. But final question for the moment is, does this work for commercial motor stroke fleet books of business?
Absolutely, 100%. I think it's probably fair to say, applying my own experience, I think it probably works best in that environment because there are less variables. So where we see fleet organizations running multiple numbers of the same vans, cars, whatever it may be, and aligning their salvage capacity with their repair networks, there's less makes and models to play with. There's more, in some cases, more damage, and it's more frequent. So we've seen this certainly a stronger demand in that arena. And I think I can't remember if I mentioned earlier, but I think the fleet world has kind of paved the way for us seeking and achieving a greater adoption within the insurance world, where you know, every policyholder is an owner of their vehicle. Whereas in the fleet world, you know, obviously it's the fleet operator that owns those vehicles, and there's less makes and manufacturers to have to sift through. So, great question, and absolutely, I think, as I say, I think that doing it in fleet and commercial book of business is kind of has paved the way as to what we're doing now.
Yeah, and also just to add into the equation that those types of vehicles and the contracts that we hold with those clients in particular, they typically would like their parts or their vehicles ring-fenced, which enables them to have access to more parts with other vehicle damage that takes place. So it really does work well with the salvage operator.
Great, thanks Mia, thanks Chris. I have no further questions at the moment, so before I close off the meeting, Mia, Chris, any last words?
Thank you for joining us today. It's been great to have the opportunity to talk to you about it. You know, if you do feel that you want to reach out after the call or the session, whatever we call it, please do so. You know, both Mia and I are passionate about what we do and when we talk about it, and I hope we've managed to convey that today. But if there's anything that you feel that, you know, dawns on you after the session, please reach out, get in touch, you know, because we like talking about it and we're happy to do so.
Yeah, and I would also welcome anybody who would like to complete to come out and do a site visit, come and see what it's all about. We've got a number of sites spread across the UK, so you can always find one that's local to wherever you're located yourselves. But everybody that we've taken to the site so far, and I've been with the company 5 years, have said that it's completely different to what they expected from 20 years ago. So it's not like your previous sort of salvage or scrapyard where you would go in and start climbing over vehicles. Those days are long gone. It's very much regulated, very well set out, and it's like a production line. So we'd welcome anybody that wishes to come and have a site visit, get in touch.
Great, that sounds like quite an exciting opportunity for anyone on the call or listening to the recording. So yeah, do get in touch for that. So just remains for me to say thanks so much to Mia and Chris for your session, which I'm sure everyone will agree has been really engaging.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'll be forwarding a reclaimed parts cross-industry working party questionnaire. As you might have noticed, there was an MGAA logo earlier, and we are, or I am, as part of the MGAA on the Reclaimed Parts Cross-Industry Working Party. So we formed a questionnaire. There are just 10 questions that will enable you to contribute to this very important environmental initiative. So be really grateful if you could take a few minutes to complete that questionnaire once you receive it. As Mia and Chris have mentioned, you can reach e2e at the email address shown, or feel free to contact me at tim.richards@mgaa.co.uk with any questions or introductions, and I'll be happy to pass these on. Thanks all of you for joining us. Please don't forget to provide your feedback, fill in the questionnaire, and do look out for forthcoming MGAA events. As always, I do hope you have a productive afternoon. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks again, and see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.